Right, so thought of the day is the things that I'm giving my attention to in my life, are they raising my vibration or are they lowering my vibration? Are they raising my consciousness level or are they lowering my consciousness level? And so when we look at that scale, basing it off of David Hawkins's consciousness levels scale, where at the bottom there's like shame, guilt, apathy, and at the top there's like joy, peace, enlightenment. And so if we look at our lives and things that we give our attention to, what things are raising our vibration, putting us into a state of, things like it's anything that's moving us up on that scale based on where we are. It's things like if we're in a state of like willingness, acceptance, love, joy, peace, that's on the height, moving up the scale. And then are things triggering us to be in a state of anger, desire, fear, grief, guilt, or shame that are causing us to be in these lower states of consciousness? And so I feel like it's like a movement towards unity and or a movement down towards separateness and divisiveness. And so when we look at our lives, what things are causing us to feel in this higher state of consciousness and what things are pulling us down? Like, it's very easy when you watch the news or watch like a violent film to be pulled down into these lower survival states, these divisive me versus you, this separateness sort of level of thinking. And when we start to notice what things in our lives are pulling us into this sort of like negative, quote unquote, level of consciousness, we can then decide, do I want to keep giving my attention to these things, or am I able to not let them trigger me in the same way? Because there's certain things like, say, like family members or people you work with where you can't just remove them from your life. It's not as simple as just saying no and cutting that out. Where the other things like certain things you watch or certain things you give your attention to that you can easily make a decision to remove that from your life, whether it's like watching the news or watching or being on social media or on some forums. It's very easy to get dragged into the emotion of whatever's being discussed or talked about. And so, yeah, so as we go on through our lives, you can make that decision of, is this thing that I'm giving my attention to serving me or causing me actually causing me harm and putting me in a state that's not beneficial for my growth. Yeah, so it's deciding where we want to give our attention to, and if those things if we can't remove those negative things from our lives, how can we not let them trigger us anymore? How can we move into a state of observation and responding versus reacting and being triggered? And also through those scenarios, we can see what things are triggering us in our lives. And then from that, we can begin to understand what we need to work on, what things are showing up again and again in our lives because we have this underlying belief or view of the world that we keep projecting out, and then that keeps showing itself to us in the world. So through seeing our triggers repeatedly, we can begin to then decipher what we need to work through to then allow ourselves to grow and become better humans. Yeah, so I feel quite inspired by that this morning. So yeah, I don't know if I'm sure it will resonate at some level with someone. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that today.